I had a African-American female pollster on last week, and she said they did a poll, and in their poll, Black voters that they polled identified Donald Trump as the single most significant threat to the lives of Black people. Now, obviously, they weren't speaking for all of Black folks. We're not a monolith. And like I also said, one of my South Carolina contributors said that a lot of Black voters are saying they're going to vote for Donald Trump as well. So I'm trying to reconcile some Black folks saying he's the largest threat to our existence than any other individual on the planet versus these that are saying, hey, despite voting Democrat all my life, I'm going to vote for Donald Trump.
So my fear isn't so much that people will vote for Donald Trump as that they won't vote. I think there are a couple of things that sort of happen here. First, there's the diaspora wars in Tennessee. Just so you know, this sort of concept of who's Black, be it that you're an immigrant or that you're a descendant of enslaved people. And those groups have had a divergence in which I'm trying to bridge that divide to understand that we are not in opposition to one another. Just
tell me who are the two sides?
The Black immigrants.
Okay. And is there a large immigrant population in Tennessee?
Yes, there's a lot of Black immigrants are moving to Tennessee. Yes.
And are they from the Caribbean or are they from Africa?
Most people are from the Caribbean.
Okay.
Yeah, just by numbers and action. But there are also some people who are from the continent that are here, but most are from the Caribbean that are moving here, relocating here, jobs, opportunities. Tennessee's a growing state. That's knowledge, right? Nashville's growing, opportunity. But the concept that people have that you're not Black like me is something that I'm really trying to focus on and work on, and actually in the middle of writing something about this concept of just diaspora wars. So that's one thing, that there's a divide. And within those diaspora wars, what the Republicans have been great at doing is dividing the group and saying, oh, and you see articles about this. There was an article in the California paper, Los Angeles, 3 weeks ago saying a Jamaican woman felt like Black people are the people who are discriminated against her, not anyone else, that Black people here, native-born Blacks, are the biggest discriminator against Black immigrants and treat them as such and make threats to them that Trump's going to get rid of them, right? So you have that conversation coming. And then you have Black immigrants who migrated here through a process different than asylum, who are saying, oh yeah, Trump's going to shut the border and this is going to solve all the problem of people thinking I'm here undocumented because I want to show that I want to be a good citizen by saying I'm anti-immigrant, right? So that's also that group of people. But then when you really talk about the South, the largest constituency in which I'm a member of that group because I'm part from Georgia, are Black people who owned a lot of land that was farmland that have been disenfranchised from years by bad farming bills, bad farming laws, and the relief that was supposed to come on the Biden administration ain't came, hasn't come. Part of it was stopped by Congress, but the Black farmer aid and that Black land that has been turned over and developed into these subdivisions that now are in Tennessee is a big grab, right? And it disenfranchises Black wealth, right? Black land and Black power. That also talks to the taxes that now Black people have to pay more on because now there's this big subdivision or this big house or this theater near it. And those things are threats to people when you're used to paying a small tax amount because that's how Tennessee makes their taxes off of land taxes, right? So those are concerns of people of saying, well, who's going to solve this problem for me? And then this assumption that every Black person, most Black people you talk to, they think the president has more control over their day-to-day than the mayor or the local Senate and House within the state. And it's helping people redefine, okay, listen, Biden is not controlling the gas pump down there at the Jiffy Lube, right? That's just not what it is. Or the eggs in the supermarket or anything else. He's also not the reason that they were paying you $8 at McDonald's before COVID and $14 after COVID. Those are choices that have been laid out to you that you've seen happen in the market. So let's learn a different way to think about this. But for some reason, it's easier to blame the president than it is to blame your representative that you don't know or to talk to your mayor. Many of them don't know who their mayor is. They don't know what the local government structure is. If they want to enact something, they don't know what that is. They don't know how the state meets or what they work on or what they talk about unless it's huge in the news. Like right now they're trying to, they're everywhere. They're trying to close schools and make school vouchers. That's a big thing in Tennessee. That was a big fight. They know about that. They may know about the gun things, but they don't exactly know how it works, right? And so part of that is a civics problem, right? Part of that is a news problem. And part of the Democratic Party's big issue is that it's such a big tent There's so many people in the tent that it's easier in the tent to go in the tent and say, that person in this tent is your problem, rather than saying the person outside the tent is causing the confusion. And that's my biggest battle right now. Even in Chicago, right? The immigrants that are there, many of them Venezuelan or from the Caribbean, Black immigrants, native born people are saying, wait a minute, why are they getting food in school and this stuff? Why can't I go to my playground? So that's the vision that we just can't afford to have.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because you have this African-American mayor, Brandon Johnson. Everybody's super excited. And Brandon has in his lap now this big migration crisis, they're calling it. And, most local mayors are not equipped to deal with federal immigration issues. Right. And we saw Eric Adams, he and his governor in New York have gotten into the biggest squabble ever. And I don't know, Brandon, you're watching it. How do you assess how he's handling? I mean, Chicago's cold. So the thoughts of people being on the streets is not possible.
Yeah, so Brandon was a teacher. So the only thing that I can say about you is that he handles this like an educator. He says there's a problem and we have resources, and he's been sort of sorting people and using community programs to sort of do it. But what he didn't do, what Eric Adams did, was say people are the problem, right? Because that's really not, migrant issues are around the world, and we aren't in a place where we have a controlled population. As a matter of fact, we're at a population deficit. So his issue has been about doing the best they can in the situations. And while it's not perfect, right, he's meeting some standards that Eric Adams is not meeting, and he's doing it in a different way. Eric Adams threw the situation back in the president's lap rather than throwing it in his own state representative's lap. Many of those people are Republicans who are letting Greg Abbott bus migrants there, right?
Mm-hmm.
They didn't sort of ship the right. They let Providences or whatever areas of New York say, we're not taking any immigrants. I don't even know what that is. I don't even know what concept that is, where a government listens to people say, oh, you can't come here, right? In the same way they do prisons and everything else. So it's problematic when you start villainizing people and lessening their value. That's the one thing that I think is interesting when we look at the Middle East, what's going on in the Middle East, when we see what's going on in Congo. It's how we look at certain nationalities and say, this nationality deserves something, this other nationality doesn't deserve something. Right, because they're both just people. They're women, right? They're children. They're still children on both sides. So that sort of weighing of life is interesting to me in such a way that confronts me, that says almost everywhere you read the American Constitution or you read what America stands for, liberty, opportunity, the place of dreams, come here, sort of do all these things, except when you're an immigrant, right? When you're a poor immigrant.
Except when you're a dark-skinned immigrant, right?
Exactly. If you're a rich immigrant, you do what you want to do. You're not just like that billionaire here, millionaire here. You're not going to have access issues no matter what, right? And I tell people this all the time. This is my biggest issue. Tell people, if Joe Biden is not reelected, Joe Biden, his kids, their kids, and their kids, they're going to be fine, right? Mm-hmm. They're going to go to school, drive nice cars, and have plenty of money. What about your kids?
Mm-hmm. Well, those immigrants need to be afraid, because Donald Trump is talking about closing borders. He's talking about deporting people, a loyalty test to the U.S. I mean, the kinds of policies, when he does talk about policies beyond just revenge, are so draconian and so oppressive. So I wonder if that word is getting out to those. Well,
it has. He promised a Muslim ban, right? He was in office. When he was in office, we went to court 3 times with regards to this Muslim ban. And now he says if he takes office again, Muslim ban.
Muslim ban, yes. And we saw the chaos at airports. We saw just the chaos around it. Right. But he's going further this time. It's not just a Muslim ban. He's talking about literally going into colleges. It's, basically, if you're anti-Israel or pro-Palestinian, you failed the quote-unquote loyalty test. Yeah, so, that's the rhetoric has gone so far now. It's beyond just you're going to be banned just because you are a Muslim. You could be an American citizen, and if you don't follow the ideology or support the ideology of him, you could find yourself at risk. I'm so glad that, you've identified Brandon Johnson. I want him to there's certain people you just want to succeed. Right. And he's got a lot of challenges. These urban cities are difficult to manage. They're all underfinanced. They all, need everything. They have these very difficult, sometimes, councils, a board of aldermen, whatever you call them, that make policy and make enacting policies very difficult. I know a bunch of folks in Chicago are suing right now to prevent him from using schools and churches and other buildings to house these migrants. And, in Chicago, you cannot sleep on the streets. You have to provide shelter for people. You have dead bodies, dying from being frostbitten, lined up on your street. So there's a lot. And thank you for the work you're doing, trying to get people to understand that these elections matter. And yes, the president cannot solve all of your problems. You do much better off getting involved in your local politics if you're looking for things that change your day-to-day life. The president definitely does matter. But the things that Biden gets blamed for, some of the things are just outrageous. I'll tell you, we're out of time, but everybody's talking about those checks they got under Trump. And we know Trump waited. He caused people financial harm so the Treasury could write his name on the checks. Nothing,
Right.
that's not commonly done. And then they forget when Biden was in office, you got a $1,400 check, not a $1,200 check. So people,
and insurance, child credit.
Yes, big checks.
And all of those things came from Congress, not exactly from the president alone. The president does not have a checkbook.
Not at all. So much misinformation out there we have to correct.